In this video, we're going to continue talking about what should you do given the whole situation going on with coronavirus. And so in the first video, we talked more about the marketing strategies. And in this video, we're going to talk more about operations and finance, and then also about contingency planning and planning for the recovery. So when you look at this, again, back to number rule, I can't say this enough, is make sure you don't panic. Try to keep yourself under control so that you can think rationally as you go through this. Otherwise, you're not going to be providing as much value as you could. And so again, with the all-purpose strategies, the external being more marketing oriented and the internal being more kind of operations and finance. And in the first video, and if you haven't seen it, take a look. We talked about maintaining connections and community service and coming up with things to help address customer pain points. But in this one, our focus is on the internal strategies. And so with this one, basically 5 different types. One is renovations and maintenance, training, cost cutting, obviously, creative use of employees, and then government support. And with each of these, I want to give you some examples of some innovative things that have been going on. With renovations and maintenance, if you've got some renovations you've been putting off or maintenance you've been putting off, now's the time. If your government is allowing you to do this sort of thing during any kind of shutdown that you're in, this is the perfect time to be doing it so that you're in a good condition for when you go into recovery. Training, the same thing. There's hardly anybody at the hotel. A lot of times we'll put off training because we're so busy. Well, we're not so busy right now. And this is a perfect time to be gearing your staff up, giving them the skills that they need so that you can move forward into the recovery. And right now, obviously, we're not going to be, in most places in the world, you're not going to be having a face-to-face meeting. But there's plenty of ways to get this content across in a virtual sort of fashion. So, take advantage of it. You've got the time. Go ahead and do this now. You've got the time. Cost cutting. Obviously, you're going to have to do some of this because if there's no revenue coming in, something's got to happen somewhere. But what you want to be careful of, sometimes you might have to close restaurants or sometimes you might have to close floors or something like that. But make sure, and this goes back to what we talked about a month and a half or so ago, make sure that you're maintaining your service level. Because, if you've got guests there now, you want them there. You want to give them the best experience that they possibly can. And things such as, I've heard stories on this, during some other downturns. Well, we cut flowers in a luxury hotel. And then people staying at the hotel are going, wait a minute, that was a luxury hotel? And so make sure, obviously you've got to cut costs, but try to cut costs in areas that are not going to be affecting the guest experience. Another thing is creative use of your employees. Assuming that you still, I assume you probably had to lay some people off, but you probably still have people working. And so what else could they do? And there's some great examples out there. This one is Singapore Air, but SAS out of Sweden has done a similar thing where they've redeployed their flight attendants to work with hospitals. The hospitals need the help, and the flight attendants are ideally suited to be helping out with this sort of thing. So it's good for the flight attendants, it's good for the patients, it's good for the hospital, and it's good for the healthcare professionals. Or in Australia with Woolworths, Qantas had to lay a lot of people off because the flights are all canceled. And so a lot of their employees that they had to lay off are now working for Woolworths because they got really busy. Or similarly in the US, CVS Health has gone, they've gotten quite busy and they've been hiring a lot of Marriott people who were furloughed. So think about this. It's a good way to help keep your employees busy. It might not pay as well as their regular pay, but something's always better than nothing. And plus it allows them to be able to help out in a situation like this and kind of appeals to, all of our innate sense of hospitality. Government. Most governments in the world have got some sort of subsidies for helping hotels get through these difficult times. Not only hotels, but businesses. And so make sure that you're familiar with what your government is doing. get the necessary paperwork together. Yes, it's government, so it could take a while, but invest the time. It's worth it. Because they want the hospitality industry to survive as well. And so take advantage of this. Not take advantage, but make sure that you use the resources that are available to you. And so again, the internal strategies, with the renovations and maintenance and training, you've got the time. Why not do it now? Cost cutting, but avoiding cutting costs with anything that impacts the guest. Creative use of your employees, and then making sure that you look at the government support that's available to you and apply for it. But then the other part of this is that, we've been talking about what do you do when things are really going down the tube? Well, let's start thinking about the next steps. Well, number one is contingency plans, and then we'll talk about recovery plans. And, the basic plan A and plan B. And right now you might want to have a plan C and a plan D, but just think of all these things. What if ITB was canceled? It was. What if Con was canceled? It was. The Olympics canceled. One of my friends who works in Dubai was telling me back in February, he was talking with some of his hotels in Saudi, and he said, well, what if Hajj got canceled? And they said, that would never happen. Well, it did. And so think about that. What would you do? Have a contingency plan. You should always have one anyway, but you right now really be thinking ahead for this sort of thing. And make absolutely sure that you're keeping a logbook during all of this to keep track of what's been going on, because you want to go back and see what you did, what worked and what didn't. And you also want to document this for yourself and also for whoever might be following you in your position. You think of this as something that you refer to when you go through, hopefully never anything similar to this, but whenever you go through some kind of disruption before. And then be thinking about the recovery. What are you going to do later this year? What are you going to do next year? What are you going to do a couple of years from now? Right now we are just kind of trying to get through, but be thinking ahead and be ready for this, because if you're still stuck in the we're just trying to get through mode, you're not going to be able to take full advantage of this. So be thinking on where you want to be. Obviously, things are going to be different. We don't know how that's going to play out, but again, it's a good time for some contingency planning. And so, what I'd like to hear from you is what worked for you. I put together a survey, and you can find the link on LinkedIn. And I want to find out what's been working for you, what kind of advice you have, and so that we can help other people in the hotel industry out. So if you could help with that, I would appreciate it. But remember, number one, don't panic. It will be okay. At times it doesn't seem like it will, but it will be. So keep yourself together so that you can think rationally and come up with a great plan for this. So thanks for your time. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. So again, thank you.